Okay, now there's one thing about our list implementation so far you might have noticed, and it's that we have a list object and a list node object. And the list node is actually outside of list, which means other code can see how our list is organized. Even though they can't get access to our header tail, and we're hiding the header tail, the list node itself is visible. And that kind of exposes some of the internal details of how our list is implemented. We can take care of that. We don't have to expose those details. So what we could do, a question you might ask is, can we guarantee that no other part of the code uses the ListNode class other than list? And that way we fully hide the implementation of list. And the answer is yes. We can make the class declaration for ListNode a private member of list. And so that would look like this. Inside our list class, we nest ListNode inside of it. And in this case, we put it in the private section of class list to mean that no other class is allowed to see this type declaration, this class declaration, right? Only the member functions and the member variables inside list will know about ListNode and be able to use it. So it's perfectly fine, since we declare class ListNode as private inside list, we can still have our private head and tail inside list, and that's no concern. And that code would still work the same way. However, one thing it does mean is that our iterator object can't be outside of list. It now needs to be brought inside of list because our iterator object has a list node inside of it. So now the iterator also has to be inside of list now. If list node is inside list, then the iterator will also have to be inside list so that it has access to that type to help us support iteration. But that's okay because the iterator as an object really only makes sense in conjunction with the list anyway, so it's okay to bring it inside list and make it usable. Now, since we brought these types inside of list, one thing to note is that if we want to refer to their type names, we have to write something like list : list node or list : iterator if we're ever writing code outside of this class declaration. Since they're properly nested inside list, list now becomes part of the naming scope for referring to the list node or the iterator class. Okay, and you might ask, where can list node be used if I declare it inside list? Well, list node is a private member of list, so only members of list are able to see list node now. That means any member functions or member variables can use the list node type. List can contain fields of type list node, and list member functions can declare and access fields of a list node object. The iterator can also use list node because it's also inside list and is able to see anything declared inside list. No other code outside of list, though, can see or use the list node type. And if they tried, there would be a syntax error saying that list node is private and only accessible within list. Okay, so summary, classes may be nested inside other classes with either private or public access. By moving list node inside list, we make it a private type inside the list that only list can see and use. No other objects can see or use the type because of this. And the reason we want to do this is just to hide and encapsulate list node inside list. However, note that a user of our list object is still indirectly using list nodes. Anytime they use an iterator, that iterator is going to package up a list node inside of it. So even though the programmer may not know that they're using a list node object, they're in fact using a list node, fairly explicitly inside that iterator. It's just hidden from them so that they can't see exactly what it is and how it works.